When I was 9, I got hit by a car, and there was a car coming, and my cousin ran out in front of the car, and the car swerved to miss her, and it hit me, and I went up in the air, and I did 2 somersaults, and then I came down and I landed on the boot, and I split the back of my head open. One side of my face was torn back, and I broke 3 ribs, and I broke my leg at the top and at the bottom, and the knee was floating. I just remember, because I was in a coma for 2 weeks after that, and I just remember afterwards when I would wake up, they had me on morphine, and that was really sort of traumatic because of the dreams that you'd have with it. Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs were in the children's ward painted on the walls, and I kept on having these really vivid dreams with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but they were doing like these really evil things, like, you know, killing each other and, you know, just kid things that were just, you know, scary. They'd be chasing you and stuff. But I think that's what's traumatic about it. It's not the actual event that happens, like when you're hit by the car, because you don't, it's like your body kicks into this other place and you don't actually remember it, but you have all this stuff afterwards where there's all these, you know, there's all these people around you, and then there'd be these moments where there's no one. Like, this might sound weird, but I think it's something that I'm glad happened to me, because it obviously kind of had a huge effect on my personality and me as a person. When something traumatic happens to you when you're young, I think it, you know, it removes you from, you know, the gradual development that everyone else has and takes you outside of it. When I was having problems when I would get older, I'd think, you know, like, maybe that you'd try and turn it into something positive and say, you know, well, you lived through that, and that was pretty special. So if you were meant to live through that, then you should, you know, be able to get through anything.
So Jerome was the oldest child in our family. So he was 17. My mum had Jerome when she was about 19. So Jerome's father wasn't actually my father biologically, but he was just brought up the same, you know, as like my father's child. So he had a special bond with my mother because of that. I mean, she certainly loved all of the children, obviously, but she'd been through a lot with Jerome. What I remember of the night is that my mum just woke me up, shook me awake in bed and said, Jerome's been killed in a car accident. Then it was just horrible after that. I guess because in a lot of ways the family is kind of focused on the oldest child. I guess in our everyday life, like, he was, like, conversation with him was stimulating, I guess, in a way that with younger children it's just not. But she just, like, disintegrated. I just completely didn't grasp it at all. I mean, the thing that affected me more was that I knew that Mum was just, you know, sort of ruined. She went through Jerome's paintings and drawings and stuff, and she gave a particular drawing to each person. So she kind of, I think she was sort of dealing with it by just looking at his artwork and trying to be sort of structured about what piece of Jerome different people could have, I guess. And so I guess, like, the whole thing of his death to me was more to do with the rest of the family, especially my mother. Being a child, growing up with somebody who's lost a child. So, you know, sometimes I think, like, what would Jerome, like, think of us now?
I was riding home from work. I came up to the intersection of Bridge Road and Church Street. A four-wheel drive pulled up behind me. The lights went green. We all went through. I'm not really sure exactly how it happened. I was kind of slipped down the side of the passenger side of his car, and then my right arm went under his back wheel and my head went under his back wheel. I was on the road, kind of, well, thinking that I was dead, pretty much, really. But not for very long, very briefly I thought that I died. Then I realised that I wasn't dead, I was okay. I was on the road and my arm was really busted. Like I looked down to see my arm and wasn't where I expected to see it. I don't know if at that stage I was thinking I was lucky to be alive or not. It's hard to tell when you start to think that. I got a bit depressed after my accident, I think. I kept thinking that maybe I should have been dead and stuff like that. Not that I should have been dead or I should have died or something, I don't know. Just weird stuff, but mixed up where you think, well, you should be happy to be alive, but you could have been dead as well, and it didn't really seem to matter. When I was on the road and I thought that I had died, it didn't really matter at all. You're just dead. I mean, it doesn't mean anything really. I don't know, in some ways I felt really calm about it. I was very, I think it makes you realise that there's not much that's important really in the end of it, because, I don't know, death it's not that scary and it just happens, and I don't know, you can't do anything about it in the end, so there's not much to worry about really.
Well, I found out that Mum was sick. She went in and had surgery and had her breast removed. And it was about a year, or probably not a year, but 6 months later, that her other breast, the one she did have left, was just looking really strange, really swollen, and just didn't look normal. So she had that removed. She rang one day and she said, look, the cancer has apparently spread to my liver. It had been going on for 3 years almost, that I couldn't grasp anymore the magnitude of it. It was almost like this was our life. Mum was sick, she always had been, and it was just a real shock to see her. She was just so ill. She was all yellow, and her eyes were yellow and her skin was yellow. She'd gotten like a jaundice. I spoke to the doctor there just about, look, what is going on, like how much longer is it going to be, because it was at the point where we were like, what the fuck. I still couldn't imagine her dead, but I knew that it was happening. And so the doctor said to me then that it's going to be about a week. So I went home and I told her what the doctor had said, and she just said, don't worry, don't be scared. It was just so hard to deal with. We were all just so emotional, and there was no coherence at all to those days. Every night I still think about it, like that I just wish I had have hugged her or comforted her in some way, because I just feel like she would have been so alone facing death. She slipped away really peacefully, but it was just it was quite difficult. And yeah, time just sort of lapsed over and until it just became like a part of our lives and what had happened. Yeah.